Okay, we're going to get into the prospecting. Okay, now there's three parts to your prospecting plan. The first is we already talked about who our targets are, but it's what channels will you go through to produce leads, to penetrate those markets and get people on the phone in order to then get some meetings. Okay. The next piece is what's your formula? What's your formula? So, it's you probably heard this. It's a numbers game, right? So the everybody knows you're not going to close 100% of all the people who inquire about doing business with you, right? Do we all agree to that? You're not going to close every one, right?
Right.
Even
Right.
me, I'm an expert. I don't close them all. So the question is, how many no's do you need to get? Do you know? How many no's do you need to get before you get a yes? No's are good because if you get the right amount of no's, the next one's a yes. And so the object here is to get them faster, but you want to know how many you need. And so and it's not just no's or yeses, it's meetings and contacts and leads. And we talked about that a little bit at the end of yesterday. And, so what is our formula? It's easy to compute how many deals you need based on your average customer value. And that's easier to track. Meetings are easier to track. Proposals are easier to track. It's the leads and the contacts that gets a little nebulous. We have to sort of guess about that. And then as we measure it, we see, okay, does our formula really play out the way we projected it to? Um, and then the third piece is really how you're going to track it. Okay, let's see. Okay, all right. So we're going to talk about these things today. First off, is we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about target markets. Do any of you subscribe to a list service? Or do you have lists of prospects? I'm going to put all these up here. And does anybody have a subscription to a list, or what do you do to put together target lists?
So here at Megaprint, we certainly do. We don't generally rely on the list generators and buy from them. What we generally are doing is going into the areas where we do a lot of business and acquiring lists from the people who run, for example, conferences that we sell a lot of posters into. We can get the list of who's going to be attending, either from the organizers. A lot of times it's just out on the network. Certainly do a lot with LinkedIn, building our own networks between customers. And for trade shows, it's very nice that we can almost guarantee who's going to a trade show based on last year's attendees and exhibitors. So we really go after some very targeted lists on a regular basis and seasonally. For example, just the last week, we've been going through and broadcasting to all of the local schools of graduations coming up because they tend to buy a lot of signage, banners, things of that nature historically. So we not only contact the ones who've bought from us, but also other ones that are very similar to them and hope to generate more interest.
Right. Yep. Okay. Good. And then you might put some of those contacts into HubSpot, or do you email lists, or what do you do with that
Well, both.
information?
Yeah, we use constant contact, but everything really ends up in HubSpot. We try not to flood
Yeah.
it with open-ended, campaigns. But as soon as we've got any kind of interaction, anybody who contacts us on our website or picks up the phone and calls us, or vice versa, would be in HubSpot for tracking it.
Okay, great. Anybody else have list service or anything similar on how you create your database?
At DCI, we rely heavily on attendees of the various trade shows that we or
Okay.
conferences that we attend. So in the education market, there are regional conferences for the folks involved in housing on college campuses, and then there's a national trade show. So that's pretty much a treasure trove of information as far as decision makers in that particular target market. In addition to that, there's also vendors. So all of the A&D architecture and design companies, they're going to be exhibiting at that same trade show. So it's pretty, the problem is we have a bunch of these lists now. We need to consolidate it down. And that would eventually go into the CRM, which is most likely will be Zoho.
Yeah. Do you do any email?
Yeah, we do email blasts. We have a monthly newsletter, which is designed to, inform and promote, provide relevant, information to our higher education customers.
And what do you use to send those emails out?
I think they're using, I think it's MailChimp right now, but that's going to go under, I think Zoho, under the Zoho subscription, we'll have one that is tied to the CRM directly.
Yeah. And that'll help you keep it current.
Right. And so my idea for, our prospecting lists need to be segmented out, to the different markets that I, kind of mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that takes some time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
You might want to do that. Good time to do that is if you're going to subscribe to Zoho and then you're going to set that up. Now's a good time to do that before you do that, so you can upload your database as a segmented list.
So you tag a prospect, right? There's different ways. We don't need to go down that right now, but yeah, that's definitely along the lines I'm thinking. The other way that I don't think we've done a good job on the government side. So we just get infiltrated with RFP requests from the various different branches of the military we serve. And I think those are a treasure trove of people buying furniture, because they're typically the request might go out of a central office, but you have this little thing in there called a technical representative. That's the person on the ground. That's the end user. And I don't think we're doing a good enough job of capturing that information and putting them into a database and following up like we should be. So that's part of it. A couple of years of doing that, you'll have a very rich database of people who are actually purchasing furniture.
Yeah. Just in case it's helpful, there's a woman in India that I've used from time to time for database work and other kinds of things like that.
Okay.
And she's really good, and she, is available at a fraction of the cost of normally. And, as long as she's pretty good at getting the information she needs to do the job, but you want to tee it up and be specific about what you're looking for. I also had been contacted by there's somebody else in India that contacted me. I never I just took his name, but there was another company out of the southwestern part of the state who has contacts in Venezuela, and they have everything from people that can do database work to actually degree marketing folks that again are really let's just say very economical and good at professional, getting stuff done. So they're kind of having a hard time there, with their economy. So there's some really good people that are available at below our pay grade.
Absolutely.
So
it's a lot of work.
Yep. Yeah.
And then just real quickly, the third one would be we've subscribed in the past to something called Construct Connect, which is it tracks different construction projects around the country. So you can get like a regional or statewide, state by state subscription to it. So the idea is you're learning of projects at their infancy stage.
Yeah, I used to subscribe to that, like Dodge Reports. There was another one I subscribed to when I was in the construction world. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, how about Acme? Do you guys have any kind of lists that you use or list service?
Currently, no. We are about to go live with NetSuite, and it has a mailing service that we're going to be utilizing to blast monthly or bi-weekly specials or promos or new products coming out. But currently, no, it's just very manual, and I access different customer lists and attendee lists for staff to shows and some other trade shows that we've attended in the past. So, and then obviously our compiled list of customers as well. No, we don't subscribe to any of these lists.
How about you, Linda?
We don't actually subscribe to any lists. We do use lists again from trade shows that we've attended.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and so as long as they're still having that information should be relatively current. When I do the individual meetings, I'm going to take a deep dive into LinkedIn so I can show you how to use LinkedIn to find people. I can spend some time on that now, but basically some of these list services, these are presented here on this slide in the order of cost. The lower cost services available, like Info USA, Info Free, Reference USA, there's a number of other ones. These are just some. And you can buy a static list for a couple $100 if you tell them the demographics of what you're looking for, or you subscribe annually and you can go in and produce any list you want whenever you want. That subscription's ordinarily around $900. I may have gone up, last time I subscribed to one. And then you jump up considerably in quality and cost when you get into Dun & Bradstreet. They merged with Hoover's, and then they went out and bought some of these AI technology companies like Net Prospects and OneSource, so that they are constantly scraping the web from 70 or 80 different sources to update their database. ZoomInfo also the same thing, but the subscription is a lot more, $4,000 or $5,000 for the first seat per year, and then they go down for additional seats. And then LinkedIn, again, not everybody keeps their LinkedIn current, but I do. So that's fairly good information. The only thing is you can't get information that is, how many employees, some of the demographic information. Incidentally, Reference USA sells subscriptions to libraries. So I would look into that if you want a list service that's free. I happen to live in Hanover, Massachusetts, and Hanover is part of the Old Colony Library Network. So when I went to the Hanover Library, they said, no, we don't have that, but Hingham does, the next town over. So I went over there, got a library card in Hingham. Now I can go and I'll actually show you real quick. Let me just. So when I go to the Hingham Public Library website, I can just go to research and business and investment and reference, oops. Oops. So now I just put my library card in. Actually, they changed their name to Data Axle. And so now I can do a search here of US businesses and do an advanced search. And I can search by SIC codes. So I could go into, let's just say, who do you guys target? Let's say we want to go into pick one. Let's real estate, non-class, agriculture, construction, manufacturing, transportation, wholesale, retail, finance, insurance, real estate, services, public. I wonder where the well, why don't you guys give me one of your markets so I can look in.
Construction.
Okay, so if I go into construction and do you want utility or what kind of construction?
I would do building.
Huh?
Building.
Okay, so then we have general contractors, single family, residential, operative buildings, general contractors, industrial.
Okay.
You know, and then let's just say designers, industrial, clean room, grain elevators, industrial buildings, warehouse, industrial commercial. So let's just pick this, and you know, we can pick whatever SIC codes you want, and then you can further, you can segment by sales volume. So let's just say we got 5, 10, 15, and then you can search by geographic location. So if I do a radius around, let's just say I'm going to pick mine. I could do a 50-mile radius around where I live. Give you results. Only one came up. So you obviously want to pick more categories, but you know, you get information about who the owners are and executives, and some information about the company, what they spend, payroll, that kind of thing, utilities, what they spend on utilities, their revenue. And so you can, you know, you can get, again, it's free, so they give you usually 25 contacts at a time. I use this as a reference, so if somebody tells me what their market is, then I can get a handle around, you know, the size of the prospects in a certain demographic and do some of the work that we did yesterday. So in case that's useful for any of you guys, you might want to look into that. Okay. All right. Now, common prospecting mistakes. Relying just on passive. What's the difference between passive and active, David?
I would guess
passive is something that just comes to you versus active would be something that you would pursue.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So advertising, for example. So y'all talked about trade shows. So let's say you decide to put a sponsorship ad in the directory for a trade show that you're going to, or you're sponsoring an event at one of these. That's passive because you're relying on your target seeing the ad and then taking you up on the call to action. Another better example is, let's say you decide to do direct mail, okay? And so you've got a list of 100 targets and you send all 100 a letter. But you don't call anybody. That's passive because you're relying on the decision maker getting the piece and then taking you up on the call to action, versus sending 25 and calling every single one. That makes that passive activity active. Okay. Now, passive can work. Having a website and expecting people to introduce themselves on your contact us page, that's passive. Okay. So you can get leads that way, but you don't want to be reliant on only passive. Okay. Being too dependent on a single channel, right? Why is that a mistake? James, why is that a mistake?
Because you'll be blind to the other ones. I mean, it's just not a good strategy.
Yeah.
You're going to miss so many more opportunities if you only have one channel.
Right. Because it dries up.
Basket too, right? I mean,
yeah.
You have to cast a wider net than,
right,
rather than depending on a single prospecting channel. That's for sure.
That's right. Because any one channel will dry up, and then you'll get a inconsistent result. So you want to have. We try to get all our clients working at least 4 active channels simultaneously, and then what happens is you find there's 2 or maybe even just one that's providing the lion's share of your leads, but the other 3 or 4, 2 or 3 feed it, make it a lot more efficient. Okay, not devoting time to actively prospect on a continuous basis, not having a plan, or tracking and adjusting to the effectiveness of your sources. Okay. All right. Now we're going to break out again. Where's my handout? And on page, I should have numbered these pages. There's a prospecting sources. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. The 4th page, there's a table. Prospecting sources. Okay, and so what I want you to do is to work on this when you get in the breakout rooms and carve up your leads. So where are your leads coming from now? Okay, so if you get half of your leads from existing client referrals, put a 50 there. If 20% of your leads come from cold calls, put a 20 there until it all totals 100. Okay, then when you're done with that, carve up your prospecting time. So the time you spend prospecting, where does that time go? So if you spend 30% of your time cold calling, put a 30 there. You put 20% of your time on trade shows, put a 20 there. And so carve up your prospecting time, and then we will come back and discuss it. Okay, so I am going to what happened? I just clicked too many buttons. Hold on. All right, there we go. Get that back. All right, so let me do this. Okay, we need 5 rooms. Oh, here comes Andrew. All right, in room 1 is. All right, wait. James gets moved to 1. And Tim, and then they got James and Linda, Bobby. Barbara's got to move to 4. James F., you're in here twice, right?
This is the only one that you'll move back and forth.
Okay, Andrew is room 5. I think I got everybody. All right, room 1's Bill. No, Bill has to go to. All right, James is going to room 3. And then Barbara and Bobby and. Where's Linda? Okay, Linda. Now I'm all confused. All right, James got to go with Bobby. And so bear with me here. Sorry. It got all screwed up.
No problem.
Okay, got Linda and Bill I got to put together, right? Room 3. All right, now I got David and James, Shipley, Tim Corbett, Bill and Linda, Barbara, Bobby, James, and then Andrew. Okay, there we go. I'm going to give you 5 minutes for that. Hey there. How you feeling?
Fine. We'll see in a few hours. She said, yeah, I'll see how you feel tomorrow.
Which one'd you get?
Moderna.
Yeah, I got that one. So this was your second one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting that on the 3rd. So I didn't schedule anything for the 4th.
Right. I've got some other commitments tomorrow, but I can sort of hang. So we'll see. I mean,
Yeah. Where'd you go?
There's a local academy up here that has students from several states. So they got sort of a advance because they do cross-border stuff. So a friend of my son's, he plays golf with and had worked with for many years, is now there. And he said, come on in, we're looking for people. So it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So prospecting channels, talk to me.
Yeah. So what we're doing is that on that 4th page there's a chart.
Yep.
And what we're doing is we're carving up where your leads come from now. And then we're on the next column, we're carving up your prospecting time. So the time you spend prospecting, where does that time go? Okay.
So I just have a big question mark, right? So, and just to back up a little bit, yesterday, this is dovetailing so awesome with the new product marketing strategy, because one of the things I remembered in the middle of the night last night was, I don't have a script. I don't know. I don't even know the questions to ask my people. I go out there and I can have a good conversation with them, but I don't have a really defined script, and that's what they're starting to build with the lead generation. And so I've been kind of, you know.
Yeah.
And I was, I took a Dale Carnegie course like 35 years ago, and I realized I've never been organized about this stuff. And I've tried several times to set up sort of a scheduling follow-ups to customers after sales and things like that. And I realized they fall apart because I didn't have a process for the communication. Like, why am I reaching out to you? I mean, I knew it was a follow-up on the order, but so this is really helpful.
Good.
Really, really helpful.
Great.
So I can run down through this: existing client referrals, cold calls. Okay.
Where do your leads come from now?
existing client referrals. I got a call from a guy today, Iowa State University, said I was looking on the web and I found you guys. I'm looking for a specific power and output configuration. And so it's the website and SEO. You know, we aren't doing anything specific now. I do use distributors and I do co-op advertising with a major national distributor. So they do monthly campaigns. We have a whole annual calendar of campaigns. But your comments yesterday of, you know, what's in it for me and how am I supporting them is, you know, that's, I can do better there, right?
Okay.
I can do better there. Trade shows, I go to trade shows, but it's really, I'm just learning the market and starting to build brand equity, brand awareness. I mean, when we bought the business can, the prior owner didn't brand us. There was no brand. He did OEM stuff. He stayed below the radar. And that's been my job for the last number of years, is just building brand awareness globally. And it's, you know, it's coming. It takes time because I haven't been very organized. So resellers and distributors, SEO, existing client referrals. That's it.
Okay.
And some
So let's
filters.
say listing client referrals, what percentage of your leads come from that? What would you guess?
Well, I'm gonna go resellers and distributors, and again, so existing client referrals. See, I've got several major internationals that sort of came in with the business, and they just keep churning. So I don't know where their customers are coming from, right? I don't know how they're sourcing their customers. One of them is Campbell. Yeah.
People might be coming to you by a referral, you just don't know it.
Right. Well, these two major resellers are in China, and I've been reached out to by people who have been working with them, and I steer them right back to them. I'm like, no. I'm not cutting these guys out at the knees. They're worth too much.
Yeah.
Domestically, you know, it's interesting. The resellers and distributors, what I'm learning, and this is why I think I need to get past this wall, is as you probably know, the market is changing where people are relying less on resellers and distributors. They can go direct. And these are major players. This is Johnson Controls. This is Siemens. This is Honeywell. This is Schneider. And we've had them as clients all along, but they also, some of their offices come through distribution, some of them come direct. So when we go after speccing in with those guys, I think it's gonna shift our space significantly, and also our margin, because we're giving up margin to the distributor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even if I sell the same amount of revenue, but I'm going direct, I get a 20% bump in margin right away, 15 to 20%. So I've got to think about these on percentages.
Okay. And what about prospecting time?
So very little, very, very little. So when we bought the business at $1 million, within a year, by 2015, that was 2012, by 2015, our revenue was at 328. We had lost a major client, and I've been pulling it back ever since. So I do, like last year, 2019, the end of 2019, Google told me that I'd traveled the equivalent of 3.5 times around the planet, because I went to a lot of events, saw clients. That was really, I should be on the road. I shouldn't be sitting here. So if I was doing what I should be doing, it would probably be 60% on the road, and it would be existing customers, you know, identifying, going to events, trade shows, conferences, speaking at those events, conferences. This last year, it's been probably, I would say, honestly, 10% of my time has been trade shows and events like that. Not even. I'll put
Okay.
SEO, we are aggressive with SEO all the time. We've been SEO for 6 or 7 years. We're constantly working it. But I don't know. I mean, I see what comes in to our inquiry page, but I don't know, sometimes, again, orders just appear. So it isn't as though they came in. I don't know exactly where they are. So the next question is, how did you find out about us, right? Then I've got to become more disciplined about my call script, right?
Sure.
And say, here I am, like I did it with a guy today. How'd you learn about us? I was looking for a specific configuration and you guys came up. Okay.
Yeah. Let me ask you a separate question. I know you're focused on the building automation controls, but what about, the monitoring and measuring prior to sourcing, uh, um, um, citing a wind project?
That's our biggest, that we print money with that.
Oh,
Our,
yeah.
our anemometers and vanes are used worldwide for that. That's our bread and butter.
Yeah, and I think that would be picking up now with the new regime.
Green Deal. Yep. I wrote that down yesterday when we were talking. New Green Deal is a big piece for us.
Yeah.
We service, so our sensors are used for utility scale wind farm site assessment. That's huge in China. We've historically been a little lower utilization in the US. There's some competition in that space, but one of our major competitors is exiting with a competing product. They have a lot of issues, customer relations. They made claims of their product that wasn't necessarily true, and so people are coming to us. So we're actively doing a direct targeted campaign on them. Anybody who goes to their webpage for those products, we get an ad on them, and we chase them for a month.
Good.
Yeah, we're doing rapid reach with McRae, so we're pinging and we're chasing customers. I just picked up a new customer in Germany.
Yeah, nice.
So, yeah, going for
Okay.
the jugular. And if I piss them off enough, maybe they'll buy us.
Or vice versa.
So I guess that's, what is that? That's outbound, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
So,
good.
but if you've got existing client referrals, trade shows and distributors, I would probably just bring in one more proactive channel. But I guess you are proactive with SEO, so that may cover it. I would say, if you're just after, the big four, automation control companies, there's Tour Andover as well. I don't know how, much they compete, but you could just contact them directly,
Yep.
do some cold calling or, and pull that channel in because, use combination of email, LinkedIn, and just picking up the phone and calling them as a channel.
Well, it's interesting. The guy who reached out to me today in the Iowa State University facilities, they use Johnson Controls for everything. So he was when he told me the configuration he wanted from our sensor, I knew Johnson Controls because they have a specific power and output thing. And so he said, yeah, we work pretty much exclusively with Johnson Controls. So if I can get embedded with them, oh, Ken, huge.
Yeah.
So so really social networking, I do that. I have a little bit of LinkedIn, a little, we've got a Facebook page. But I do follow some of these guys on LinkedIn. Again, what I want to do for you and what it's got me thinking about is when you come in, I will have prepared because I've got a lot of things happening. And I'm realizing that I do have a lot of balls in the air that are valid and working. I think they're going to be working for us on a collective. But when I stop and answer a question like this, I forget half of them. So it'll be really helpful for me to distill it down and say, okay, here's the plan. Here's our strategy. Here are the levers we're pulling and buttons we're pushing.
Great. Awesome. All right. I'm going to get the others back.
Thank you.
All right. You guys all back? I see Bill and Linda and James. Can you guys unmute? You guys back?
Back.
Okay,
You are back.
great. Okay, so Tim, what did you find on that exercise?
Yeah, so we, boy, I can't share my screen, can I? I have it on my screen.
I could. But just what channels are you working?
So we have, okay, we're working existing clients, alliances, partner referrals and collaboration, community involvement, search engine optimization, email campaigns. So those are the ones that we systematically work on. Not, we do a lot of sort of ad hoc other things, but they're really not as defined as these are as far as the campaigns that we participate in month after month and year after year.
Yeah. Okay. And so those line up with where your leads are coming from pretty closely?
Pretty closely. I think, a couple of interesting things. When we look at our existing clients, about a quarter of our business comes from existing clients. We spend maybe 10% of our time there. I think we could spend more. I think we could do better at farming that by doing better at maybe sending newsletters, stuff like that, to provoke them to want to do something they haven't done before just because they know us, versus just keep doing the same thing. So I think certainly some better things we could do there.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so you might want to look for one more active channel to pull in, because SEO can be active. But I think, and the two referral sources are active. If you're emailing and calling everybody, for example, that could be active. But I think you want to maybe look for one more active channel to supplement that.
Yeah, absolutely. Talked about certainly things like newsletters. I mean, our type of business is ideal for regular communication about new things that are happening, new events, whether it be your basic newsletter or hosting little videos, webinars, things of that nature. I think that would go a long way for us to be able to, not only continue to educate our existing clients, but help educate clients that are looking. I mean, a lot of people, when they come to us, the discussion starts with, how do I do something? And I think getting that kind of information out in very short video clips, even that says, oh, you need a banner. Here's where you start, and here's how you do it. Oh, I'm going to call them. They seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah, right. So you could do webinars then.
Right, exactly.
You could do webinars, and then you could record them and make them evergreen.
Yep.
But when, if you, in promoting webinars, you are actually now keeping top of mind, and you're offering education, so people are more going to be receptive to it. And then as they register, now they're identifying themselves as somebody who's actually, potentially a sales ready lead.
Sure. Yep.
And so that might be something, if there is something you can educate people on,
Right.
would be a great strategy.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. How about?
We had also talked about becoming more active in chambers and associations.
Yeah. But those tend to attract smaller customers.
Mhm.
And so, it depends.
Right.
It depends. Okay. Let's see. How about DCI?
Well, DCI, this was a little hard for us because we don't do a lot of prospecting. Most of our time is is devoted to, managing existing client relationships and keeping our existing customers. So we honestly don't spend enough time with the prospecting. And then the other thing that was curious is when we attach percentages to each of these, the percent of the leads matched up with the percent of the time. I don't know if that was typical for the other people involved in this, but our percents, were pretty much, if we had 10% in the cold calls, we had 10%, 5 to 10% in the amount of leads generated. So, but do you want to hear like the biggest areas we spend our time? Is that what?
Sure.
Okay. We, I guess the biggest ones for us were the newsletters. We do an email newsletter that we do monthly. We had that at being 10 to 20% of our leads and 10 to 20% of our time. We also had email, search engine optimization, email campaigns, and webinars. We had that as a pretty high amount of time, and leads about 25% of time, 25 to 30% of the time, and 25 to 30% of the leads.
Okay, great. And if you're spending a lot of time with existing clients, then you should be asking more for referrals.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that because you mentioned that on our call. We don't do that. It's hard for us to even. This came up in the marketing class we did 2 weeks ago. Is even asking for like Google reviews. We kind of have a laid back style, and we don't like to be feeling like we're pressuring or something. But we don't tend to do that. But that would be good to learn, learn how to do that, I guess.
Well, if you're spending a lot of time with existing customers, you ask them if they're happy, right? If they're happy with the service.
I don't know as I've ever asked that. I just kind of, I just know their customers and they're happy. I guess I've asked, is there anything we can be doing? I know my customers are happy. We have, our customers, we keep them very, very close. We don't, they're big, like we said yesterday. They're long-term relationships, and, they're kept very close, and how they feel.
Right. And you because you spend so much time with them and pay so much attention to making sure they're happy, they most likely are.
Yeah.
It's good to ask, because when you ask, you're showing them, demonstrating to them that you care. Mm-hmm. And they get to communicate that to you. And so if you do that, you're more likely to get a glowing review of how much they like the things that you do for them, the results they're getting. Those are the kinds of things they'll communicate to you.
Yeah.
And then you just say, hey, would you mind if I put that in Google?
Right.
Or would you mind if I put that on my LinkedIn? They'll say, sure. Right. And then you offer to ghostwrite it. Say, listen, why don't I write, down what I think I heard you say, and then you just write 1 or 2 sentences of what they said, send it to them with a link of where to put it up. So all I got to do is click, copy, paste, and send it. Real easy. Offer to ghostwrite it. They won't even want to make any changes, or maybe, somebody who's real analytical might change a couple of words or whatever, and then you got your Google review. Mm-hmm. Make it easy for them. Offer to ghostwrite, but it starts by asking, are you happy? And I think that's a good question. You should be asking all your customers if they're happy, because you want to know, and you want to know if they're not, so you can fix it. And that's kind of the first step in getting a referral at too. And we can talk more about that when I come to visit you guys, or when we do our individual. Okay, Acme.
I'll talk to this. As far as leads, existing client referrals, cold calls, trade shows, referrals and collaboration, big part of our product panel, say, and distributors.
Yeah,
and it's very passive. So
okay, so I got client referrals, cold calls, trade shows, and distributors, and then in between there, it was hard to hear what you were saying. Did I miss anything?
Give me a sec.
Well, you have enough active channels there, so I'm not too concerned about that. Okay, and New England braiding. Linda, you there?
I am.
Oh, Bill, I'm sorry.
Most of our leads and stuff are from resellers and distributors, our existing customers. Some of which we've got the existing client referrals and cold calls. We're members of an organization that brings in some a little bit of advertising, trade shows, quarterly newsletter, and some email campaigns.
Good.
But much like David, we don't spend nearly enough time prospecting, and we're trying to change ourselves from a reactive organization to a proactive organization.
Okay, good. All right. So any questions about how I can help you do that, let me know. But that's good. All right. Let's see. All right. Let me get my.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Can hear you now, James.
Yes. Okay. Now, the other part, as I mentioned, is the formula. And so ROIT is return on invested time. Let me see the chat here. Okay. And so there's different formulas at different channels. So for example, on cold calls, the return on invested time is normally 2%, meaning you've got to talk to 50 people to close one deal. And the best I've seen is been around 11% with a client. But if you know that there's somebody who is interested or they something about them, some of the timing things that we worked on yesterday, and you reach out, you can move that up substantially. And so for example, I prospect into community banks locally here as one channel, one target market. And I knew that there was a new CEO at a local bank, and he was a speaker at a chamber event, online, virtual. So I attended that. Immediately after, I gave him a cold call. And actually, I was expecting to close the deal today, but This was back last April, so it was a year ago. And, they obviously were preoccupied with PPP, and I'm not going to go through the whole list of things that they've been preoccupied since then, but they're pretty much ready to go now. And so when you say there's long lead times, long sales cycles, well, yeah, I guess you could say it's only because I had to just keep in touch with them until they're ready. And so now if the sales cycle started now, it's going to be short. But as you move up, like we said, if you just send out a bunch of letters and don't follow up, the best you could expect is moving that 2% to 3%. But if you knew that you had a well-targeted, let's say, I was talking with Andrew about one of his competitors in one of his markets is almost exiting the business. And I think that one of you other guys had mentioned that you had a competitor that I think was having some challenges, and you had a list of all their customers, right? That could have substantial better results than just a regular direct mail campaign. But if you send a letter and follow up with every one, then you can substantially improve that channel. Seminars, workshops, webinars, where you get a chance to get people talking, or they get to experience you, and then you decide who to follow up with. Networking, which would include trade shows, because you're there, people are face to face. I know it's virtual now, but ordinarily conferences where you're face to face with people, you get to ask them questions and then decide who to follow up with. And then referrals, where the person that is the prospect has said they are interested in taking a call from you. And so they're expecting your call because somebody that they know and trust has recommended that they do that, okay, and teed you up for that. And then alliance strategic partners, where you have ongoing exchanges of these introductions going on back and forth. Okay, so these are people who know the people you want to meet, and you know people they want to meet. And so you have an ongoing exchange of these introductions back and forth. Or you're working with them collectively on projects. And then the quality introduction, where the person that's introducing you is there physically when you meet the prospect. And when you're operating up there, that's 95% return on invested time. Okay, so here's some other channels that you may want to consider pulling in that can help to supplement what you're doing now. Any questions about this? Okay. So, do you all have goals? Have you set goals for the year? Are they written down? And do you share them with your team? Does anybody want to comment on that?
DCI, we don't have written goals, but it's certainly part of the marketing plan and sales plan moving forward.
Okay. And so when you, okay, go ahead.
No, most of what this slide, most of the points, the bullets on this slide are part of an ongoing discussion and marketing plan.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
And
are they in place now? No.
Yeah.
Same here.
Okay. And who was that?
Bill,
Bill? Okay.
a similar boat to James.
So are you in the process of trying to put some goals together, or?
We actually
Bill?
have a couple meetings coming up that we're going to be addressing some of this stuff.
Okay, great. Okay. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, we'll confess, we are not doing a terrific job here. We sort of set goals for the company. We know what we're trying to achieve at a higher level, but making them very specific, individuals responsible for them, you know, an effective timeline and method of tracking them and evaluating them. We don't do a terrific job at yet, but certainly is something we're aware of and trying to improve.
Okay. And how about Barbara, Bobby, James? Do you guys have goals?
I think we all have goals at Acme. We definitely like to double or triple our sales, but we've got some challenges internally, and we're focused on retention, customer retention, I think at the moment, and trying to maintain a quality product. You know, we're not looking to expand too fast or grow too fast and sacrifice quality. So that's definitely, you know, there are some goals that were put into place between leadership and myself, and unfortunately some extenuating circumstances kind of put those goals on the back burner, and we're just kind of in retention mode I think at the moment. You know, I'm just trying to prospect, obviously, but
Yeah.
not where I would like to be.
Okay. Andrew?
Yeah, we've got, so me, myself, and I sit down and I do maintain an annual set of goals, set targets. We have, you know, campaigns that we work, whether it's SEO or direct distribution, and those have been our historic channels. So I do, the last year and a half has been a bit of a, sort of things kind of went sideways, but the challenge is I don't really, it's a little bit obtuse, right? I'm trying to sort of find it. But historically, what I do is I've done a really basic number of when we bought the business, $0 was spent on advertising except for a website. And I think manufacturing is typically somewhere 6 to 8% of revenue is a baseline for marketing. At least when I read that at one point, I'm running 12, 15% the last couple of years, really trying to amp it up and understand where I'm going to get the best hit. So I'm tracking it as a cost, tracking it as a percentage of total revenue, and then looking at each market, knowing how I'm approaching those markets, my distribution market. I know my spend, I know what, you know, what it's generating for me. Like last year, I justified my spend for the year by, I think June, right? So my marketing spend, and then it was all gravy from that point forward. So I'm getting better at the metrics, not perfect, but I'm working on it.
Good. Okay. Great. And you know, a lot of you, or most of you, really, you know, operate under a team effort, and you know, so for that reason alone, it really makes sense for you to have some clear goals written down, and you're measuring it on an ongoing basis, and communicating how you're, what progress you're making, because but it is a team effort, and that's motivating. And so uh, it's a process, but it's important. And then, but goals are only as good as how you plan to achieve them. And that means breaking those goals into monthly, weekly, daily activities, and then, finding ways to check and see how you're doing against them. That way, everybody on the team can keep themselves accountable for doing those things, and they are things that you as managers can coach them on being able to do, finding time to do it, and doing it better and improving over time. And that requires tracking and making it a simple system that everybody can adopt on their own, where so that but that enables you to be able to real time know how you're doing, and keep yourself motivated for doing more. And it also can then become the benchmarks through which you you measure performance, and then and set expectations for other people in the future, because you know what is important, what works and what doesn't, and what level of activity is required. Okay. But goals initiated behavior, and with ongoing coaching, it keeps people motivated and keeps people doing the behavior. And so let's take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about how to do all of this. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Amos, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How'd it go?
That was good. It was a lot of information, but it's certainly a huge opportunity. So
yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah, that's
good.
great.
Excellent. All right, you were just in time to take a break.
All right, sounds great.
All right, let's see.
How much time, Ken?
Let's see. It's 12:18. What do you think? 10 minutes? 5 minutes?
10 be good.
Yep.
10. Okay. Come back at 2:28.
I'm gonna be
sound
late.
like you're running an install. All right.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
A lot.
See you then.
See you soon.
And Andrew asked if I'm going to share these slides. I'm certainly happy to do that. I'll email them to you. Plus, I'm recording this, so if you want a recording, I don't know what Eric has as a medium. I can put it up on my YouTube and share it with you there if anybody's interested in that. Okay, so let's get into this. And I will get back into what I think should be tracked. But I want to talk about goals, because I've seen it numerous places. I can't really put my finger on an actual study, but it is said that less than 10% of people actually have written goals. And I think that part of that, there's a lot of reasons for that. I think one of the main reasons is people don't really understand what a real goal is. Goal setting is not writing down what you want. That's a good start. But if you write down, I want a new house, or I want a new car, that's just a concept. It's not a real goal. And there's a lot of elements that go along with what really makes a goal. And it's not just being a hard worker, because there's a lot of people who work really hard that never get anywhere. And it's not being a good person, because there's a lot of real successful jerks out there, right? So what it is really is being really specific about what you want and when you want it. And then finding ways to visualize it daily. And that nice thing about putting together a tracking system is you're tracking your progress towards your goal. So it provides you with a mechanism to really visualize it on a regular basis. And so, there's a couple of ways that I do that with the tracking that I do, and and I plug in, how many deals I'm going to do over time on a monthly basis, and then I have a plan, a forecast, and then an actual, and I look at it. And then I have a daily tracking system, and maybe it's overkill. And then I track my activities on a weekly basis. And if anybody's interested, I can show you what I do. But with those systems, I'm looking at it every week when I plan my week. It's the first thing I do is I score myself, and then I in that process I'm visualizing what where I want to go and how I did for the week, and it's part of my planning. And then I set myself up to do more. But basically, it's said that the people who picture and visualize their goals is really less than 5%. And when you do that, what you're really doing is you're programming your mind to take you there. Our mind really doesn't care about a vision that you see clearly and an actual event. And all it cares about is what you expect. But when you're visualizing your goals on a regular basis, then your goal becomes what you expect. And then your mind takes you there. And that's why I had you do that 3-year exercise, because when you start to visualize what things look like 3 years from now, that could be a very different picture. And when you keep your eye on what that looks like, that may cause you to do different things with different people today to keep you on track to getting there. Because a lot of times what happens is, we're going day to day, and then we have small wins and small defeats, but then we end up with really a cyclical way of not getting exactly to where the future, what your vision is for the future. Some of the mistakes people make in setting goals is that it's based on your current experience. And, that's very prevalent today. And the way to set a goal is not to say, okay, based on my current experience, what I expect is, and that's, you're starting off with a limiting view from the beginning. What you want to do is really understand what is it that we need, then figure out what does that look like when you chunk it down. So for example, let's say you want you guys are in New Hampshire, right? So let's say you want to have a house on Lake Winnipesaukee. Okay, that's what you want. You probably don't want that. You probably want a house on the Cape. But us down here in our Massachusetts people, we want the house in But let's just say, okay, I want to have a house, not only, a house on Winnisocket. I want to have the house at 225 Main Street, and I don't even know what some of those towns are, but and that particular house, right? Well, you might say, okay, well, I don't know how realistic that is, but you could go up there and knock on the door and say, hey, is your house for sale? And everything has a price. They may say, no, you know what, my house isn't for sale. And you say, well, how about if I gave you $20 million for it? It might be automatically for sale, right? Or maybe you decide, hey, you know what, that's a little bit out of my price range, but there are other houses on Main Street that are available, and you can figure out how much it would cost for you to buy it a couple of years from now, and then you can figure out how much you would have to put away every month to have a $20 down payment, and then you could start putting that money away today. That's chunking it down and making sure that you keep on track to getting what you want. Okay. And then that's a real goal because you set a timeline of 2 years and you keep yourself motivated and on track for doing that. And the other thing that problems that people make are setting just outcome goals instead of performance goals. Okay, so if and I don't want to pick on you guys, Acme, but if you say, all right, I want to double my sales, well, that's a good goal, but that's an outcome goal, and it's only one goal. So you can set an outcome goal like I want to double my sales, but you should have a whole bunch of performance goals that are underneath it. So if you decide, okay, I want to double my sales, that means I'm going to make X number of calls a week. I'm going to send X number of letters every week. I'm going to go to 4 trade shows a year. And when I go there, I want to talk to at least 10 people. See, these are all activities that you are 100% in control of. Performance activities are things you are 100% in control of. But outcomes you aren't always in control of. So, for example, let's say you decide, all right, you know what? They're going to have the Boston Marathon again. It's going to be in October, right? And I want to come in and I want to be in the top half. I want to be in the top half, and that's my goal. So you go out and you start training. Well, you could end up being entered in the race, and all of a sudden, because they didn't have the marathon for a while, there's 10,000 Ethiopians and Kenyans that decide to sign up at the same time. You don't have any control over that, so maybe you're not in the top half. But if you figure out, okay, what score would I have to come in with to be in the top half, and that's my goal, is to achieve the race at this time, you can control that because you can train to get to that level. So you want to make sure that your goals are performance goals and not just outcome goals. The performance goals lead to the outcomes. Okay. You don't want to set them unrealistically high. That's another thing people do is they say, okay, well, this year we want to do 50% more without even thinking about, okay, what do we chunk down to make that happen? How do we make that happen? Is that realistic? And you don't want to make them too low because then they're not motivating. And you don't want them to be vague because then they won't be something that is clear. The essential components of a real goal are this acronym SMART. They need to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So if it's specific and time bound, then it's going to be measurable, right? So if you want to have that house at 255 Main Street by June 15th, 2024, that is a specific goal, and you can chunk it down and measure your success along the way to be able to achieve it. And once you chunk it down and you're committed to doing those things, then it's realistic. That's how you determine if it's realistic. Okay. And I think that one of the things that when I work with clients, we work on a book. We use a book called The Success Principles, and it's by Jack Canfield, and that's the book that we use to keep your heads in the game. It's a motivating book, and one of the things he does in the 3rd chapter is he has this vision exercise. And I like it because it causes you to set a vision for 7 different areas of your life. And one is financial, your work, business, career, recreation, free time, body, physical health, relationships, family and friends, personal development, and community involvement. Now, the point is not that you need to set goals in all these areas, but the point is, if there's a gap in any area, then these are the kinds of things that nag at you and prevent you from being at the top of your game. Because they're things that pop in your head and you start thinking about it and get distracted when you want to be focused on what you're doing. And so if there is a gap in any area, then why not set a goal there? And I think it's good to help your team members do the same thing, in my opinion. Okay. And then you chunk them down, get them on the timeline, and then plan. Plan weekly and adjust daily and stick with it, or decide you're just not committed. Okay. And once you've done, your sales goals get chunked down to prospecting activities, sales activities, then you set the stage for what you expect a new hire to do. Okay. And that way you can then use that information to know what kind of experience, what kind of behavior you're looking for, and be able to test for someone's ability to be able to achieve those tasks and stick with it, so that you reduce the amount of wasted time and money on getting the right people. And then you set them up with the right systems in place, and expectations as well. And this applies to distributors. Okay, so we don't always have control over your distributor's sales team, but I think, and I'm going to get take a deeper dive into that. Really, you're relying on these people to bring in business for themselves and for you. And so I think that it's relevant to have an understanding of what is the qualitative assessment of their team and how they're going about their business. And do they have goals, for example, and how are they managing and coaching them to produce? And do they have expectations on what these tasks these people should be doing, and skills and their functions, and what do you expect? So certainly if you're going to hire salespeople, I expect that you would determine what these things are what do you expect them to do and when, and how will that develop over the first 30 days, the next 60 days, and 90 days, and then after that, and how will they be measured? Okay. But it starts with the goals. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Where do you journal your daily? How do you keep track of that?
How do I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
pen and paper.
I do it on a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to show it to you?
Yeah.
Time permitting. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I do a couple of different things actually. You may consider it overkill, but I will show it to you. Actually, one of them I have not been keeping up. I can show it to you in a minute. But all right, so this is what I do once a week. Monday morning is my planning day. Okay. And so these are the things that I have. These are my goals that I keep myself accountable for planning. When I have calls daily, schedule one-on-one meetings. I do workshops, client referrals, networking, calling. I run a networking group called the CEO Connector. Here's some financial goals I have, keeping track of my bookkeeping, putting stuff in retirement, and then I have goals that are designed to get me corporate classes, and then I'm trying to write a book. Okay, and so what I do is once a week I go in there, I give myself a 1 if I did it, and I leave it blank if I didn't do it. And I'm trying to do 75% of these 16 things every week. Last week I was pretty busy, so I didn't really do so well, but I track this. I use a system called the 12-week year, and the concept is when your year is 12 months and January stinks, there's always February. But when your year is 12 weeks, every day counts. And so I set 12-week goals, and so I have I have a chart here for every quarter, and there's 4 13-week segments in a year. So you get 4 12-week years in a calendar year, and 1 year in between to plan. And then what I do is I track. Hang on a second. Where's the split? All right. So I track all my contacts, all my appointments, all my book business. So I don't track my leads, but I track, whenever I talk to somebody, when I set an appointment, when I have an appointment, and when I close a deal on a daily basis. This is a month at a glance, and then every day I track this stuff. And so it gets reported. I can share this spreadsheet for you if you're interested. And so it gets recorded over here. These are the outputs. So, I'm tracking every year. I didn't start the year off very good, but I'm making up for it now. And so right now I'm 100% on track with my goal. And already for the month, through April, which is great because April we still have 3 weeks left. And so then I'm tracking my close rate. Takes me 2.8 first meetings to close a deal. I'm closing 36%. of them, and then takes me 27 contacts to get a first meeting. And so that's what I'm tracking. And then I have another system where I haven't really been keeping up with, but see if I can find it.
James, how do you journal?
I don't. I mean, that's why I was curious. I don't have a formal system like this at all.
Yeah. Neither do I.
My problem is I have a bunch of different systems, and you jump around, and just the same problem a lot of people have is just sticking to something. Sticking to one way of tracking things.
Right. Right.
See, I'm looking at my goal every day. It's right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then once a week, I'm looking at how am I doing against it. And then I have, I'll show you. I actually need to get back on track. I went on vacation and I fell off of, so this is what I do at the beginning of the year.
So Ken,
yeah,
this is organic, right? You've created this.
Yeah.
Thinking about how you drill down to that, because I'm looking at what I haven't read in my line of sight. I'm thinking about my Excel files I have. They're the things I think that I use for my reference points are all things that have derived out of goals, right? So the key is make some goals, and then you're going to want to try and define how you're tracking toward them or away from them, right?
Yes.
So it kind of goes back to it. Just
chunk them down first
and figure it out. Because if you're just trying to figure stuff out with the goals, it isn't going to get you anywhere. You'll fall off.
Yeah. Yep. The key is to chunk them down to activities, and then track the activities. Okay. But these are my outcomes. And so what I did at the beginning of the year is I said, okay, I'm going to have, I'm going to get 6 corporate clients, over time, and I'm going to get 30 what I call onesie clients over time. Okay, this year, that's what I'm going to plan to do, and that's going to get me 315K. Okay, and that's my goal. And then I got actual. So here I'm plugging them in as I get them.
Has this evolved? Does it modify a little bit each year? Do you drop some things, pick some other ones up? So it's basically a live document.
Yes.
Okay.
But I have not kept this one. I have not kept this one up. I have to update it. But then, I look at how I'm doing against my goal and how I'm doing against last year. So I got my 2020 actual, and I compare, and that's how I do it. In addition to keeping my QuickBooks. So now you're probably sorry you asked, right?
Not at all.
Anyway.
I mean, for me, it just identifies when I think about because James, your question was good. I'm like, how do I journal? What do I do? And then I realized there's some things I do that are outside of what needs to be done, but and it's based on goals that I've set, but I don't necessarily even realize it, I guess is my point. Maybe you have more that's going on than you think you do. Step back and look at it and say, wait a minute, I am tracking a few things that are actually valid. That's how I'm like, oh, wait, there are some metrics.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, those are some of the things I'm doing. If you're interested in more details, I'm happy to share that with you.
All right,
And
thanks.
but okay. So and then you want to be tracking things. Looking at I track my activities weekly, just like I showed you, and then I track my results monthly and make adjustments. Okay, and that way I make sure I stay on track. And that's it's important if you're going to have salespeople come in and you're paying them to be able to know what what is to know whether you're going to get results and be able to make adjustments and coach them on the execution. Okay, and so this is how I track it. So I showed you my tracking system, right? And the first thing you look at is, okay, are you tracking your monthly sales goal, right? Did you book what you expect this month? If you did, great. Then it's just a matter of, okay, how much of that is new business, net new versus existing? Because you want to see a certain percentage of new business coming in. If you're tracking your monthly goal every month, that's great. Now you can work on getting some new clients. But if you're not getting the sales you expect for the month, then you look at, okay, how many deals did I close? Relative to your formula, right? So like I said yesterday, if you want to, if you want to increase your sales $1 million and each client's worth 100,000, you got to get 10 of them, right? Okay. And if you close, let's just say you want 1.2 million and each one's worth 100,000. So you got to get one per month. Okay. Let's say you closed your deal that month, but you only got 50,000. Well, obviously the deal was smaller than your average. So if you're closing the right amount of deals, but your sales aren't there, then it's made the size of the deals you're getting. And usually it's a combination. A lot of times, so you have a certain number of deals at this size, and then you have, I call it the baseball analogy. You've got base hits, doubles, and triples, and then every once in a while you get a home run, but the home run's gravy. You don't bank on the home runs. And so if you're closing deals and your sales aren't where they should be, then maybe you want to take a look at, are you going after the right targets, or do you need to go up market, or do you need to adjust your formula? Maybe you need more deals than you expected. Okay, but if you're not closing deals, then you look at, all right, how many proposals, how many quotes did you do? Because if you're doing a lot of quotes and not closing deals, then maybe it's your sales process. It's what you're doing in your sales meetings. Or you're proposing the wrong way or to the wrong people. Okay, but if you're not doing proposals or quotes, then how many meetings are you having with prospects on new deals or new opportunities with existing clients? Okay, how many of those meetings are you having? Because if you're having a lot of meetings and it's not turning into proposals or you're not closing deals, again, it's probably the sales process. But if you're not having meetings on new opportunities, then it's all right. Well, how many contacts are you making, or what are you doing to produce leads? Is it your prospecting plan or your prospecting dialogue? Make sense? Questions about that? Andrew, did that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, and I
Okay.
think my other point was for you is, Are we gonna get these slides?
Yeah, I'll send them to you.
I
Yep.
think you had some other ratios lined up that were, or these they as well. I guess these are they.
This is it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
those are the ratios. It's basically dollars per sale,
Yeah.
proposals per close,
Mhm.
first appointments per close,
Mhm.
contacts per first meeting, and leads per first meeting, leads and leads per channel.
Okay. This is, okay. I'm gonna think of that in terms of distributors too, right?
Yes, and that is the that is the thing, right? You don't get this data, but I don't know why. I mean, that's the ideal situation is you have open lines of communication with your distributors about how are they doing, right? And what is the 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 um, the qualitative characteristics of their sales team?
Right.
You have the worst salespeople that are talking all the time and not learning anything. They're going out and doing all kinds of presentations. They're not prepared. They're just winging it, or they're lone wolves versus best salespeople that listen more than they talk, are problem solvers, are prepared, and understand their prospects, and are trustworthy and team players. Okay, and then what's their sales process? So, when you meet with a potential client, right, what's the first thing that you do? You're having a prospect interview and you're sitting down with a client, right? David, what's the first thing you do?
I don't know. This is a hard question for me. Well, it depends on what this kind of first meeting is. Is this somebody that this is just somebody that we don't know at all?
Well, they come to you and they want to buy your furniture.
Okay.
They're going to buy furniture, or they're interested in buying furniture. At least that's what they told you.
Yeah.
And
So
they
I
want
guess-
to talk to you about the job.
Yeah, so I see where you're going with this. I mean, my first inclination would be to tell them about our company, and about our processes and what makes us different. But I think what you're looking for is here that we should be learning more about what their pain points are and asking questions rather than going into the story of us. So
That's right.
Yeah, I've learned something. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So you
Right.
talk about their needs. How are they going about doing this now? What concerns do they have? What's important to them? Right. You qualify. Do they need what you have? What is it that they're looking for? How would they make that decision? And what's their budget and all that stuff, right?
Right.
Okay. Then you tell them what you can do. But when you tell them what you can do, it's really razor focused on what they say is important to them and more relevant and how much it's going to cost, right? Then what do? What's next?
I'm sorry. So we've told them what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
What do I do after I've told them what it's going to cost?
Yeah.
I mean, usually for us, that's negotiation at that point,
Yeah, right. Well,
bulk or,
Yeah, well, you don't, you hopefully you don't need to negotiate, right? But you sort
Close
of,
the deal.
you check in. Yeah, you try to close it, but first you sort of try to get feedback, right? We call it the trial close. What do you think? Will this work for you? What reservations do you have? Okay. And then perhaps was it Bobby that said about the negotiation? Maybe they want to negotiate, but you don't need to negotiate unless you get an objection. Hey, well, that's a little bit higher than I thought, or we have a price that's lower. What can you do for me? Right? So then you would, if you are in a negotiation, then that's how you handle it. You negotiate and maybe you close it, or you get the second objection. No, you know what? We haven't had a chance to look at this yet. I just got a big project got dumped in my lap. Call me in a couple of weeks. Or, I haven't had a chance to talk to my CFO yet, right? Or whatever that objection is. And then maybe they come back, or this is where they disappear, right? And so the question is sometimes, it's like, well, look, we don't know what happened. Why did they waste our time, right? They want your proposal. They want to know what you can do and how much it'll cost, right? But what you need to find out is what are they going to do with that information? And there's three possible things that they can do. One is to buy from you, it's what you're hoping, okay? The second thing is do nothing, right? You ever get those people? The do nothings? We all do, right? The third is to go buy from somebody else. Okay? And your job is to really find out which is it. Okay? And so, we talked about marketing and prospecting. You've got to make sure that they trust you, that you've got some rapport. And part of that is to setting agendas, knowing what the agenda for the meeting is, what you expect to happen, what did they expect to happen, what are the potential outcomes, and tell them it's okay to say no to you. So then they should feel more at ease to open up and tell you any concerns they have. And so then you qualify them and find out what are those compelling reasons for them to do business with you or to change what they're doing more specifically. And, as David said, what is their pain? There's three possible reasons for people to buy something. One is they're in pain and they want to get out of it. The second is they are afraid something will happen if they don't change what they're doing. And the third is they have something to gain by buying it, right? Have you ever bought anything for a different reason? Pain, fear, or gain? No one's ever given me a different reason. Okay? And pain is more compelling than fear. All three work, but fear is more compelling than gain. But you can turn gain into fear by asking, what happens if you don't get it? And you can turn fear into pain by saying, has that ever happened to you? And pain is more compelling. And then once they've communicated pain to you, then you can ask them if it's a top priority to fix it. What happens if you don't? Is doing nothing an option for you? If I show you a proposal that meets your budget, what happens then? And how would you decide? Who else is involved? What do you need to make a decision? How will you do that? And when will you decide? And how much are you willing to invest? So if you ask all those questions, if you spend, David, you spend 15 to 20 minutes getting all that information, you will, number one, weed out the do-nothings before it happens. If they're not going to do anything, you don't have to give them a proposal, right? Or if there's another decision maker, now you have the opportunity to bring them in to get them involved. But if you know they have a pain, you're dealing with the decision maker, they're committed to doing something and not nothing, and you know what they want to spend, then your presentation will be spot on because they've told you what needs to happen. And then you close the deal, you head off buyer's remorse, make sure they don't back out, set up an implementation plan so everybody their expectations are met, and you create a happy, loyal customer. Make sense?
Yes.
Sure does.
Okay. We'll take a deep dive into this when I come to your office. All right, let's see. Just checking the time. Should we take another break?
Sounds good.
Sure.
All right, let's take, is 5 minutes enough? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so when you have a sales team or you're working with distributors, and how are they educating their sales team on each of these elements, target market strategy, prospecting, getting meetings, building relationships, questioning, qualifying, presentations, negotiating, handling objections, and how they manage their time. And, you know, uh, you should work with them over time and on where they need help. One thing at a time. People, you can't. We as humans can't absorb a lot of information and be able to retain it and know what to do with it. So, you know, as leaders, you should be dripping information over time, and then working on um, development of these skills, and then involve your emerging sales leaders in administering that, including role playing and coaching. And then you can develop these people, and then have weekly sales meetings where you start with a positive tone, you discuss results, you can review pipelines, but that's normally what people do in sales meetings. And when you sit there and just go through the same prospects over and over again, it's kind of a waste of time for the other people sitting there. The better thing to do is to talk about how to prepare for meetings or debrief on meetings where everybody can learn from that experience, or work on role playing, having meetings, or work on where they need help on prospecting or prospecting dialogue. Okay. And then coach them on how to improve on the performance. I got certified to deliver this Heart of Coaching program where it's really how to create a feedback rich, performance focused culture, and fosters feedback back and forth. And it's been demonstrated that training alone really has an impact, but then people tend to fall back partly to their normal behavior. So maybe you get a 22% increase in productivity, but combined with coaching, there's some substantial retainage and change behavior that results. Okay, and so then you can move from what we've been talking about in terms of setting goals, planning the goals, tracking them down, and measuring the results, and then reviewing on the performance, to actually active coaching where there's ongoing feedback back and forth. That feedback is focused on the goals, and that people are asking learning questions to determine, where are you on the same page? And then, people are solving their own problems. And as leaders, you're just offering support and encouragement and helping them keep themselves accountable. Okay. And, today I think, to gain and retain a competitive advantage, that coaching is really going to be an important part of that. Okay. And it's something that you can apply not just from boss to subordinate, but also peer to peer, and then and as a direct report to your supervisor. Okay. And so we're managing not just results, but also behaviors and relationships that get you results. And results reinforce the beliefs. Okay, because a lot of times, we are attacking the belief without really knowing what's behind it. And so this process of really having a trusting foundation and then knowing how to deliver and receive feedback usually results in people solving their own problems 80% of the time, rather than directing people to do what you want them to do. Okay. All right. So, with the remaining time, I'd like to just talk about the distributors and resellers and agents, because most of you are using these people. Okay. And, there's a lot of reasons why that can be a good strategy. The most common is to broaden your geographic reach and to have boots on the ground in places where you're not. Also, these are companies that also already may have relationships with your target audience, and they have an existing sales force that can be an extension of yours. And then you can collaborate with them on marketing to penetrate those markets and work with them on managing those teams to get results. Okay. But the first step is really selecting the right partner. And I think that the first question I would ask them is, how are you going to address the market? What are you going to do? What's your view of what the market is? And, hopefully, and then, doing a qualitative, not just a quantitative assessment of their sales team. Are these people capable of doing what they need to do in order to bring in the business that you expect? And then what do they expect to happen? And I think so. Let's talk about that. For you guys that have distributors or resellers or independent agents, do they communicate with you how much business they expect to bring in? Do you ever have that kind of conversation with them?
So for Megaprint, we do. In fact, they give us quarterly updates, and that way we know what the seasonality looks like, and we can stock the appropriate amount of inventory. Now, of course, we build on demand. So if they're off, it's not like we've got stuff sitting on the shelf. So it works out pretty well. But yeah, every one of our partners gives us a forecast for what kind of business they expect.
Yeah, and that's great, because then you can plan, right? you can make decisions on your business based on those expectations for revenue and profit, right? Because otherwise you can't really. It makes it very difficult. And those are good relationships. And the other piece is, how does what you're offering for them fit in with how they make their money? There needs to be enough margin in the first place to make it worth your while, and then is it going to be worth their while? And you know, and then how are they going to manage the team based on just what we were talking about before, to make sure that the activities get done? And do you need to train them on the product, and or can you train them on how to perform, how to produce, how to prospect, how to execute on the sales process? And are they getting training and coaching? And are there things that you can collaborate with them from a marketing standpoint to produce leads for their team, right? Make sense?
Yeah, sure does. Absolutely.
Okay. So, usually the first thing to look at is how are you going to divide up the territory? And a lot of times it could be based on where the prospects are, and the geographic location, or could be broken up by industry or vertical markets, or any special expertise, if it's really technical, that may be required for any particular application, or other criteria that is specialized from a strategic standpoint. So there could be, for example, some that you retain as customers just because of the strategic nature, and others are allocated based on some of this other criteria. But the most common way is by geography. And so you've got a defined sales territory, and usually that's effective when there is a large segment of the target population within a certain area. And that way they can get to know these people, get to know the area, and then also logistically be able to canvas and cover that area. Okay. So usually, there are other examples of ways to segment. Could be based on size of the business, type of industry or market, what maybe there's certain types of products that they carry and others that they don't. Maybe there's specific service requirements. So I have a client that sells pumps. I think I mentioned them, and they also have a service group. So one of their advantages is the fact that they do service, and that gains them a lot of replacement pump sales. And that's an advantage they have over their competitors. And I also mentioned that there could be a strategic significance, or the type of the marketplace, or is it a B2B or B2C? So these are some other ways that it can be broken down, or any specialization based on certain skills, technical or selling requirements, or based on the market. Okay, but you need to think about, will they be able to have the potential to make some money, and will it be enticing enough for them, and so is the area sufficient for that, and will it improve your sales volume and your profit? Okay, and does it support your strategic corporate initiatives? Any questions about that? About how to consider your distribution? Make decisions on territory management. Okay. So then the next piece is the quality of the salespeople, right? Now, if you are hiring salespeople for your own internal use, these are employees, then culture is important, right? Will they fit in? Are they in line with your company values, and things like conduct, work ethic, and how they treat clients, how they work with your team, and are they willing to be accountable, are all important. But then you figure out, okay, what are the tasks that you're expecting them to do, and what is the experience, that's the E in the acronym, experience and expertise they'll need. What's the attitude and behavior, that's the A, and how will they manage their time, that's the M. Okay, so in terms of tasks is where you start, really, is what will they need to do? Will they need to produce leads or not? Will they need to be good qualifiers? Will they need to be setting appointments? Or they just have conducting appointments? Will they have to do a lot of presentations, close deals? Or is it more account management? Will they have to really do a lot of follow-on customer service work, or be involved in execution and the deliverables and following through after the sale? Okay, so all of these are really important, because you need to know what are they selling, who do they need to interact with, will they need to prospect or not, or is it really just executing in a sales meeting? Because having the ability to do a lot of prospecting may not be the same person who is doing more sales meetings and qualifying. You've probably heard the dichotomy between hiring a hunter or a farmer, and it's really a challenge, really, to find somebody who can actually do both. So you really need to think about who are these people going to interact with, and what do they need to do to be successful in terms of all of these things. And then it starts with really, then you can look at what they've done in the past and how does that match up, and starts with like what have they sold in the past, and what kind of role were they in? Was it a transactional environment or a consultative environment? And how does that compare with what you have? Is it what were the volume? What are the sales volume per transaction, and how does that compare with what you have? And what is the opportunity? How much income do they really, if they're doing the activities they need to, how much can they earn, and how does that compare with what they're used to getting? And is it a long sales cycle or a short sales cycle? How does that compare with what they're used to? And what kind of knowledge do they need to have? Okay, so that you can determine what really is essential for somebody to be successful in terms of being able to do these tasks, and what kind of experience will they need to have had. And then attitude and behavior. What are the behaviors they'll need to do? How will they need to be motivated and motivated by, and what kind of role would they play? How do they measure success? Are they goal oriented? Are they able to deal with rejection, and willing to be accountable? And how do they view risk and reward? Okay. And then the last piece is how they manage their business. Are they organized? How do they use the calendar? Are they willing to track things? Do they understand the benefit of that? If they need to provide a lot of customer support, are they willing to do that? And are they willing to work as a team? And how will they get along with the rest of the people they need to interact with within the company? Okay, and then you can set up these performance factors that I talked about before, of how they're being measured. And then now the thing is, with distributors and independent agents, we don't really have a lot of control over this, but I think that it's pertinent and it's relevant to ask them how they go about doing these things, because that's part of the analysis of who you want to team up with. And I think that the more that people are open to discuss these things and work with you on developing these things, the better that relationship is, and more likely you're going to get results. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions? Okay. The last thing is the contract. A lot of times when you're hiring salespeople, the contract really is an offer letter, and you're telling your potential hire what you're offering them. We're going to give you a title. We're going to give you a base salary, commission plan, benefits, training, sign here. Okay, so you're really telling them what you're offering them, but where is it in that contract designated what they're going to do for you? Okay, And, so I think that it's pertinent to define some of these higher level activities that you expect. We're going to expect you're going to reach out to your existing contacts. You're going to learn our products and services over the first couple of weeks. Then you're going to be reaching out to, people that you know. Then you're going to be, prospecting in these channels. You're going to be going to trade shows. You're going to be making cold calls. You're going to be doing whatever you expect. And then you will turn over some meetings, turn over some opportunities, how that develops over time, and then how will you be measured? Okay, so it sets mutual expectations. And then also, what happens if it doesn't work out? What happens with future commissions? And, how does that play out? Make sense? So I think a lot of that is ordinarily not included. And I think it's important.
I feel a long way from this part.
Well, contracting with salespeople.
Yeah.
You never know, right? I mean, you could be, if your marketing team starts to produce a lot of leads for you, Andrew, it might be sooner than you think.
Right. Well, and I think you can start with your own self-contract, right?
Well, what you're planning to do yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm just saying, if you hire somebody to do anything, you might want to, have mutual expectations of what they're supposed to be doing, and actually maybe put some of that into the agreement. That's all I'm saying.
What I'm saying is by really thinking of this in terms of your own expectations of your own self, when it comes time to hire, you've got a better frame of reference in how you would structure that relationship.
Absolutely, no question about it.
So
Yep.
fire myself every Friday and rehire myself on Monday.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Yeah, because you're doing it now, so that's really, you're learning as you go about what really needs to happen, and that's the basis for your expectations for other people.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Are you going to give us, prior to coming in to meet with us directly, are you going to give us a sort of an outline of what you're looking for us to have available, or in sort of kind of homework ahead of time?
No, not really. When I come to your office, I'm going to take a deeper dive into those prospecting channels.
Okay.
On how to execute, and then I'm going to dissect that sales process with you. And I'm going to take a deep dive into LinkedIn to show you the power of it. And I'm going to spend some time talking about how to get referrals.
Okay.
That's the agenda. Now, I'm open to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. So if you prefer to spend that time on something else, I'm open to that, and if you want to communicate that to me in advance, that might be helpful so I can prepare. But I am totally flexible to just work on whatever you think you need. But, absent of that, that's my agenda, is prospecting, referrals, LinkedIn, and sales process.
Got it.
All right. But I try to keep it at a higher level with these, just to talk about, really strategy and management in this first session.
Okay.
So, any questions about what we talked about so far?
You know us, I think.
All set? Okay. So that's pretty much all I've got prepared for today. So before we break, I'm going to give you all a chance to do what we did when we started today. Okay, so tell me two things. What's your aha for today? Okay, what's one takeaway you got from today? And then number two, what are you going to do differently? Okay, Tim, you want to start?
Sure. A lot of things, but I think probably the two that really resonate well, I like the 12-week goal. I think for especially a company our size with everything we're going through with COVID and everything else, you really get lost every day in the weeds every week, and you get to Friday and say, oh my, all these things I was going to do, I didn't get to. And I think the idea that is, making sure that the first thing you get to are the things that are most important, and try to farm off the other things to other people, I guess. I think was one, and I think the other one, really the importance of documenting what you're doing and measuring that, analyzing it, fixing it. We did move to a CRM system, and that helped the discipline a lot, helps communication between us a lot. But I think the idea of goal setting, that 12 weeks, and seeing what's working, what's not, and how do we fix it on an ongoing basis was just tremendous for me.
Good. Okay. So there's a book, The 12-Week Year. I forget the name of the guy who wrote it. But I used to use for time management David Allen's Getting Things Done. And this is way simpler. It's really set 12-week goals, chunk it down into activities, and score yourself every week. Very simple.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple, not necessarily easy.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. I'll look that up. I mean, it got to the point where I basically told people, unless the building's on fire, see me at 10 or see me at 2, because the interruptions are just so large that I had to be able to block time out to spend with customers and other things. And so any tools to help us, and me personally with that is welcome. So I will look that up for sure.
Okay. What are you going to do differently, Tim?
Really, I think the big difference is setting goals and monitoring them and seeing how we're achieving them for really everybody, including myself. I think is really the big one. In goals that are, as you mentioned, very specific, very measurable, achievable, and documented.
Yeah.
Big thing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. How about you, Andrew?
My aha was as we were going through the customer qualification process and realizing that I actually do have a fairly robust methodology in how I interact with our customers and our clients in a way that is appropriate to them. So I felt really good about that. Mm-hmm. The bigger picture is bouncing all over the room. I mean, if I picked up my camera and showed you all the big white sheets with writing on them on the walls, I need to distill that down and into a clear, concise, articulable format, and then share it with everybody. Right? I mean, we talk about individual pieces, but I haven't talked about the big picture with everyone and where we're trying to go, and I need to do that.
Great. Yeah. That's good. That's good. And I think that's something that's worth thinking about is for all of you is how you help people to see progress? You know, how does that get communicated? You know, charts, measurements, you know, the thermostat, right? The thermostat approach for fundraising is a good example. So people can see how they're progressing towards the goal. Um, is it's motivating. All right, how about you, David?
I guess I agree with Tim in terms of the goals, and then specifically the types of goals that are set. I thought what you said about the example you gave on the Boston Marathon was pretty interesting. The outcome goals versus the performance type goals. So in addition to setting the goals, you know, thinking carefully in terms of whether those are really outcome goals or performance goals. And then to what you said about the offer letter to sales reps, it pretty much your example pretty much illustrated exactly how our offer letters go. We haven't defined the activities or how the candidate will be measured. So I think that was a good takeaway for me.
Okay, what do you do differently this now?
I think we can change, you know, the offer letter. We don't write a lot of those. We don't have a lot of salespeople, but you know, next offer letter can encompass some of the you know, the things that you talked about. You know, how the candidate, how the applicant will be measured, how it will be measured, and the activities that are well define the activities. So I think that'll
Okay, good. Bobby?
Yeah, so like Tim and Dave, we definitely are gonna I feel like the goal setting is something that's really speaking to me as far as outcome versus performance. And we really as a team don't set goals. And I think, you know, we say, yes, we want to double sales, but how do we go about doing that? And what steps do we need to take to do that? And I think today was really helpful in that. And then as far as, you know, what do we want to do differently? I think we want to definitely get more visible on social networks, because that's really something we're lacking at Acme. Acme's been in business since 1894, and sometimes our technology feels like it's been in place since 1894. So we definitely want to improve there.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm gonna take a deep dive into LinkedIn for you when I
Yeah,
come up there,
cool.
or when we do our individual sessions.
Yeah.
So at least you'll have that knowledge. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Okay. Who's next? How about James Shipley?
Sure. I think I was going to talk originally about goals and how that's tied to coaching and motivation, and then sort of with the end goal of creating something sustainable. But I think we've kind of touched a lot. We've talked a lot about goals in the comments so far. So the other thing I think was the real aha moment was in the very beginning when we were putting percentages to our prospects and the amount of time associated with those leads. Sorry, the percentage, attaching percentages to our leads and then correlating that with the prospecting time. Going through that sort of exercise, I think the aha was like, we're sort of flying blind there. And looking at, you know, I'm excited that we're looking at a CRM, because I think it's going to, you know, make huge strides into not fly blind any longer and really put some, have some data that we can look to analyze and sort of make the best decisions moving forward. And so.
Excellent. Good. Okay. How about James Fernandez?
So, you know, again, that my aha moment was definitely like David just, I'm sorry, like James just pointed out, was seeing where we were actually focusing most of our time, and going forward, managing that better, doing a better job at managing my time and where I'm focusing my efforts on, as far as percentage wise, what I'm dedicating more time to and what I'm not. As far as what I want to do going forward, definitely setting goals. I want to get us. I've been a proponent for social media since I came on. I just haven't. I haven't had the I guess the motivation to get us going. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to help us get in that direction. I'm not a big social media person myself, but I can definitely manage an account. So once we get that up and running, then that would definitely be something that I think we could benefit from. And then I think on the sales rep side, we've got some resetting to do. I think there's got to be some. There's going to have to be some deep dives into how their contracts are structured and what our expectations of them needs to be going forward.
Good. Yeah, we can spend some time talking about that one with you guys if you want. Okay, good. Amos.
Yeah, for me, it was also the part about goals, and I appreciate you sharing that spreadsheet. I used to keep a spreadsheet of my own, and it was very personal, but I see the benefit in doing that. And I think, what was helpful in seeing yours is some of the goals are as simple as a basic task. And I think I can see some benefit in, while everybody's going to have their own individual goals, I definitely see a benefit in somehow having some universal goals that we all share as a sales team, and roll that into our weekly sales meeting, or in our case, we have a bi-weekly sales meeting, but to keep us all on track with some really basic things that could, I think, be steps towards helping us grow sales.
Good. Okay. How about Barbara?
So the couple things that really stuck out to me was when we were talking about distributors or sales reps, and instead of doing geographical, doing it by geographics, but doing it by product line, I think is something that we might want to explore here. I mean, I would defer to James, but I was like, wow, that's really a good idea, because someone might specialize in one industry and they could probably handle a bigger territory, and someone else might specialize in another territory. So the territories geographically may overlap, but not product wise, which I thought was like, wow. So, and really, holding our distributors and reps accountable. The other thing that I really liked was when we were talking about setting goals and then the gap, how if you don't fill in those gaps, you get unfocused. And I thought it's like, that happens to me a lot. Well, I get unfocused a lot because I have a lot of things going on, but in the 12-week year, so that we could lay out things in time slots. So that was my takeaway, but it really makes you think outside the box.
Excellent. Okay. Bill?
One of the aha moments, I forget who said it, but was definitely the prospecting sources, where our leads and business comes from, as opposed to how much time we spend on those.
Mm-hmm.
The other main thing was the SMART goals. We have goals, but we don't have methods of implementing those goals. And we really need to sit down and hammer that out.
Good. All right. Who'd I miss? How about Laura? Do you have anything to add?
Linda.
Well, yeah, Linda too, but I asked Laura. Laura's over there in the corner and she's
Yes.
awfully quiet.
And Reggie too. So when Tim gave his input, but I think really the goals and sort of focusing and coming back to them over and over again and really working on that. That's something that we really haven't spent much time on. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, obviously without that, we're not going to be able to move forward. So I think that really needs to be a priority for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Linda.
Hi, I have mine's really focused, I guess is the word. What I took away was something that I can also do, which we have a hard time getting testimonials from our end users and or our distributors. So the idea of being a ghostwriter and writing it and submitting it to them to then just put their name on it and put it up on one of the platforms, that's an excellent idea because I can do the writing and I'm sure that some of them would be happy to just go ahead and do it once it's written for them. So to me, that was a great suggestion.
All right. Excellent. Good. Okay. I don't think I missed anybody. Did I get everybody? All right. I think I did. Okay. So for those of you who are having their individual sessions virtual, I sent you a link. It's actually it's just my link, but for the now that I think of it, it's not the same one we use for New Hampshire MEP. I should have used the same one, but the link is actually my personal link. So you'll have that. The people that I'm coming to see. Just let me know if I need to bring a projector and screen. Otherwise, I'll assume you have a TV I can hook up with and some wireless. I need wireless to get to the internet. And other than that, also Amos and David, I sent you an email about whether you want to break it up since you guys are in California. So just let me know, okay? Other than that, I'm looking forward to the individual sessions. Send me any agenda items that you want to make sure we cover other than those things that I told you about: prospecting, referrals, LinkedIn, and sales process. Anything else before we wrap up?
All good.
Nope. we're all
Okay.
done. Thanks
All
very
right,
much.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.